Emlyn.
I'd like to call to order the July 1st, 2026 Citizens Advisory Committee meeting of the Palm Beach Metropolitan Planning Organization. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Staff, can you please call the roll to establish a quorum?
At this time, I'm only asking those CAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Lily Charlotte Landstrom. Present. Kate Layden. Here. James Garvin.
Here.
Tay Gaines. Paula Ryan. Jim Knight.
Here.
Lauren Steve is excused. Cheryl Murente is excused. VJ Mishra is excused. Michael Crevis.
Here.
James Lafferty.
Here.
Greg Fagan.
Here.
Albert Richwagon. Win Dang. Here. Alex Freeman. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ruth. All right, are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
Are there any changes to the minutes from the last 2 months?
Oh, no, Mr. Chair.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for not only, it would be June and May, correct?
So moved.
Second? Second by Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, general public instructions on how to provide public comment are included in the agenda. Staff, have we received any general public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
As a reminder, for action items on the agenda, there are conflict of interest forms available if needed by any member of the CAC. At this time, I also want to invite any CAC members for comments that are not for items on the agenda. Going once, and we're good. All right, so let's go on to the CAC liaisons report. I invite Matthew Mossa, Senior Transportation Planner, to provide the update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Uh, Happy 4th of July, everyone. Thanks for coming today. We have a pretty short agenda, so just to get started, our 2026 annual report is now out. There's copies out front. Carly Diglio, our public involvement specialist, she did a great job working on that. So please take a look and see the record and history of what we've done this past year. And you can review the highlights from our past fiscal year. So, and again, that's also available at palmbeachmpo.org/annual report. We also have our 5E toolkit. So the MPO has been working on offering strategies, resources, and actions communities can use to advance a safer transportation system. And to view that toolkit, please visit palmbeachmpo.org/5E toolkit. The MPO has also been working on tutorials for a lot of our interactive tools, our online interactive tools, and you can view those at palmbeachmpo.org/tutorials. There's also additional resources for the links to those interactive tools at palmbeachmpo.org/resources. And then the MPO will be hosting a helmet fitter training with the City of Palm Beach Gardens and Safe Kids Palm Beach County on August 5th. So mark your calendars. You can learn more and register at palmbeachmpo.org/helmet fitter training. And that'll be from 10 to 11:30 a.m. There's also the Dangerous by Design report that Smart Growth America has published, their 2026 report. You can go to smartamericagrowth.org/signature reports/dangerous by design to learn more. There's also Community Connectors funding opportunities. So applications for, again, Smart Growth America's Community Connectors grant programs are open through July 7th. People can apply at smartgrowthamerica.org/services/community connectors 2026. There's also the Bloomberg Initiative for Cycling Infrastructure Funding Opportunity. So funding applications are open through September 14th with a two-phase program designed to help cities move cycling infrastructure from planning to implementation. We encourage you to go to globaldesigningscities.org to learn more and get involved. There's also the countywide transportation master plan ongoing. There was a meeting yesterday in Belle Glade, and there's another 2 meetings coming up. One is for Wednesday, July 1st, today, at Palm Beach Gardens Public Library, and that'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. And then there's also a third meeting Wednesday, July 8th. At the Boynton Beach Arts and Cultural Center from 6 to 8 p.m. as well. And as always, go to Palm Beach pbcmoves.com to get involved and stay involved and continue to follow the updates from the county. And as always, stay informed, explore our resources, and discover more opportunities to present as we provide those events. And the transportation planning process here at the MPO at palmbeachmpo.org/participate. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. Are there any comments or questions from the committee for the liaisons report? Jim?
Just wanted to comment. I saw on the news, I think this morning, that there was like 5 deaths on, was it the Turnpike in Martin County? And I was wondering, did they report whether or not the people actually had their seatbelts on or not? Is there any way to tell if that's, because maybe, hopefully that's it, that they didn't have it on. It's a way to have fewer deaths on the interstates by letting people know to buckle up or get a ticket, click it or ticket or whatever the program is.
Yeah, so a lot of our crash data, when we do analysis, we use some of the state resources such as Signal 4, and that's based on police reports. A lot of that's on the local knowledge if they were able to tell if seatbelts were on or off during the accident. I mean, we can look into it more, but that's typically followed in the police reports.
Any other comments from the CAC? Seeing none, are there any public comments for this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, great. Moving on. Action item 2A, motion to recommend adoption of the fiscal year 28-32 list of priority projects, the LOP. I want to invite Andrew Euler, Deputy Director of Programs, to present on this item. Andrew?
Morning, Chair. Morning, everyone. Committee. So this is the list of priority products for fiscal year 2032. We just started the new fiscal year. And if you were here last year, just like today, happy new fiscal year. This is July 1st, the state fiscal year. So we just are now operating under 27, and this is looking forward to 28 to 32. Exciting times. So what is the list of priority projects? It's our MPO's priority list for federal and state funds that we anticipate over the next 5 years. And we give this to AFDOT to build into their work program and ultimately our transportation improvement program. Our current fiscal year, as I mentioned, starts today, July 1st, state fiscal year. And then this one's covering 28 through 32. And that new outer year is what is called the new fifth year. And we call it the new fifth year because that's typically where funding is available as we move through the pipeline of projects. So you're going to see the majority of new requests come into the new fifth year. And as a reminder, as a metropolitan planning organization, we do coordinate federal and state investments throughout the county. Although we prioritize funds more directly for urban area formula funds that we receive based on population within the urban area, we do approve a transportation improvement program and coordinate countywide investments using federal and state funds. And so to get to this point in the process, this is sort of the second step as we move towards the next transportation improvement program for fiscal year 28 through 32. It really starts with our long-range transportation plans, that 25-year vision that we have. From that, we're taking the projects and trying to get those projects that are prioritized through that into the pipeline to get built. At that same time, we're taking products from the long-range transportation plan. We're also accepting new products to put into there or applications for our transportation alternatives program, which is a competitive grant application process for smaller scale projects. All those are received in early spring of 2026. So over the past year, and they're vetted, they're field reviews with the local vetting team for AFDOT, and also the local partners are out there with the MPO staff, ensure that these products are feasible. Once they're determined that they're feasible and they're supported locally, they can be put into the list of priority products for programming. And that's what you're seeing today before you is this July meeting. Once this is adopted, it goes to AFDOT, and then AFDOT will use our priority list. They'll update all the cost estimates and revenues within the entire state budget, and then integrate our priorities and AFDOT priorities and other priorities to form the work program. And that work program then serves as the basis of our transportation improvement program moving forward. So based on these priorities today, you'll see a draft of the work program come December this year. We're really focused on just the MPO priority projects within our transportation improvement program today. It's around $400 million is roughly what we have programmed in the past over the past 5 years with a $3 billion overall budget next 5 years within our county. So kind of the scale of the projects. It's around 50 or so projects within our priority list. Those include our major products list, which also includes local initiatives, which was a separate set aside before. And it's also the Transportation Alternatives Program, and then the state's Shared Use Network Trail Program, which is a state competitive grant program. And this is always an important part, and I stress this probably in every presentation I do when it comes to the Transportation Improvement Program, is really about the pipeline of projects and maintaining work program stability. And what I mean by that, and what AFDOT typically means by that, is that they're always trying to push products through production, and products might have various phases, and those phases are really scheduled out, typically with a design in maybe the year 1 or 2, and then they'll have right of way or any other kind of acquisition or utilities in year 3, and then down the road, year 5, something like construction. So they're split up that way. And really what's occurring though is we're trying to continue this pipeline of projects. Also kind of important to mention is that AFDOT does have policies this year related to the timing of projects and how long it takes to get things done, because they really want to make sure they're moving products through the pipeline. So from when a product development environmental phase starts, so that larger study, that can only take a 1.5 years between start to end time. So that's been a tighter window. And then also, if you're doing a design or a PD&E study, you have to have construction anticipated within 8 years of the start of those phases. So basically, if you start a design, you can't just have it laying around. If you have a PD&E, you can just have it laid around. You need to be going towards construction, have that program within 8 years. So those are the windows we're working in. The funding availability for us, what you'll see in the backup and what goes towards the list of priority products is roughly $46 million of federal and state funds. We separate it into two buckets. It's our major products, which includes a federal pot of money and some state funds, and then the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is also federal funds. So 2 buckets that we really prioritize towards. These are anticipated funds that we have for the MPO, working with FDOT. And moving forward, this may not be specifically the amounts we get every year, but it's a good one to go off of for anticipated funding. And then on top of this, we're always looking for other funding sources. Sometimes more funding sources come available, whether it's through discretionary grants, new federal transportation bills. There's other ones to tap into, competitive grants. So we're always supplementing our priorities with those other funding sources, which is great. The first ones I'm going to talk about are major products. So these are the ones, again, coming from our long-range transportation plan. And these really are meant to advance that vision. All types of products go into this program. It's safety, reliability, complete streets, transit, technology, resiliency. And then the eligibility of the types of funds, it really depends on the road. So if it's a state roadway, you could use state funds. If it's off the state system, you typically cannot use state funds. And then for the most part, we can use our federal funds that we have available for anything that's on the federal aid eligible network, which is pretty large. And then these typically will come in the new 5th year. So that outer years when you're seeing that bigger pot where these the new phases will be programmed. Here's a large list, no mapping for you today or other visualizations. It's really a large list today. So a lot to take in. I'll keep it on the screen for a few minutes here. But overall, our major product requests for the new 5th year total roughly $77.6 million. So we always try to oversubscribe to what we might have anticipated available. So looking to get these sort of knocked off in order. There's existing products on this list that are already in the list of priority projects that have other phases coming up, right? So an example is 21-6 Indiantown Road at Central Boulevard. The PD&E is on their way for that one already this year. Design is coming up in the next 2 years. So now we're ready to get right away also in the pipeline. And so that's why you're seeing a phase like right away come up for that. Other products on this list, there's 3, again, total that are already in our list of priority products. And then anything with a 26 label in our tables, 26-1 all the way 26-9 are new to the list of priority products. And those are new requests. Okay, so again, most likely you would see these occur within the new outer year, but depending on funding availability, some may be accelerated on this list, or the ones that are currently in the list of priority products that I don't have mentioned on here, but are in the backup, may also be accelerated. So we're always trying to go in order of the priority. A lot of these newer ones are safety-driven projects, a lot of shared use pathways, so pathways that can accommodate both pedestrian and bicyclists. Many of them are also state initiatives, so we have ones on Okeechobee Boulevard, Lake Worth Road, A1A, those are all state roadways. The last one on the list is also a drainage project and raising the roadway for resiliency over Manalapan. So lots of state initiatives on here. But we also have a series of local initiatives from some of our partners, such as Palm Springs and West Palm Beach. And then the other list is a smaller program. This is Transportation Alternatives, Non-Motorized Infrastructure. Variety of products towards non-motorized infrastructure, really emphasizing safety for our most vulnerable users. Can be used on or off the federal aid eligible system. And these are all federal funds. And we get roughly $5.1 million a year in these funds. And we cap these products, since they are small scale, to $1.5 million per project. And because they're small scale, they also don't really have as detailed and complex of design. And there's no requirements for, or you're not allowed to have right of way as part of these projects. So it's totally local design done, and then construction is reimbursed in year 3. So what that means is 2030. And so you'll see at a shorter time frame for those. Here's the request on those. There's 8 new ones, all for requests in 2030, totaling $11 million. As I mentioned, we typically see around 5 million, a little over $5 million towards transportation alternatives every year. AFDOT has indicated there is a little bit of additional funds we had remaining from contingency from other projects that we could probably fund a few more. So we're hopeful that we can get more than just $5 million funded on products into the future here. But all types of products, lots of shared use pathways on these, traffic calming, and throughout the county. And then this is my last slide, and then we can take questions, another discussion. Final adoption of the governing board this month. It's been open since June 24th. So when these packets went out last week, and there's more information on the website for the public. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, Andrew. Ruth, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Do any of our committee members have a comment? Dana?
I actually have a question. Andrew, on the third to the last slide, the US one, the Dixie Gregory, I think it was the lane repurposing. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? What is the lane repurposing? And it looks like it's been on there since 17.
Sure. Would you mind bringing up the slides again? Third from last slide. I think it's go back. One more. The other way. Yep. Were you referring to one on this list? Yes, the top one.
Correct.
Okay, so a product in Lake Worth Beach. Brian, I'm not sure if you have more on this one. So the design is already in the program. And this is a lane repurposing for, oh, it's not a lane repurposing anymore. It's a lane reconstruction. Okay.
So this is actually not a lane repurposing project. Sorry, that is a good catch on there, Dana. This is a safety project. Initially, it was a lane repurposing with Lake Worth Beach. However, DOT let us know that they were going to deny the project for the better part of traffic modeling. So we asked them to keep the project on and do safety improvements on the corridor instead. So what you're seeing now is construction of things like better crosswalks, traffic calming, some speed reduction mechanisms that are near the curve that happens in Lake Worth Beach near Gregory and Washington. So we'll get that cleaned up. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Brian.
Lily?
I saw on the online version of this that there were 3 Sun Trail projects. Is there any chance we could get maybe in the future, like some more information on those?
If additional information on those?
Yeah, the Sun Trail.
Yeah, we can get that for you.
Yeah.
Right now, we typically, the way our Sun Trail list, and it's in the backup here as well, it's table 3. There's 3 products on there. It's Jupiter, Boca Raton, and then another one up in Jupiter area. These are ones to expand the network, mostly on state roadways. It follows US 1 for the majority of the area in our county. Supposed to be like around 12-foot pathways or wider, or narrow if they can't fit there. It's usually driven by locals trying to get these implemented, and then we always try to support them. I think we do have one moving forward, and there's a public meeting up in, I believe in Jupiter regarding the Sun Trail feasibility study coming up here in a few weeks. I don't see any other additional movement right now in construction of any of these, or whether other portions have been funded, but I believe that the one in Jupiter is at least finishing up a feasibility study, but I can get more information for you.
Thank you.
All right, Jim?
Question about page 18 and it's Boynton Beach, Southeast First Street, from Boynton Beach Boulevard to Albright Road. That's a shared use path, I think, right? Is that correctly?
Yes.
That's along the railroad tracks, or kind of close to the railroad corridor. And with all the issues that we've had, I think that's FEC right there, if I recall correctly. With all the issues that we've had with the bright line and everything else, will they be putting fencing up or something where it's close to the tracks there? There's a couple of spots, I think, from between Boynton and Albright where it gets pretty close to the tracks there. And of course, I know you can't teach people not to cross the tracks, unfortunately.
I'll have to look specifically, and I'll follow up. Matthew can jot this one down for that project to see if they're doing work close to the tracks. Sometimes we avoid track, or like locals will avoid trying to do work within certain, rail lines or intersections. So, right, so we'll look and see if what they're doing there for anything specific for Boynton Beach, for Southeast First.
But if November ballot issue passes, do you see that affecting your funding and so forth? Have you been looking ahead, like cities are all scrambling, counties, so forth, trying to figure it out?
Related to property taxes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure if your mic is on, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so just wait.
With regards to the property taxes,
Sure.
is that?
Yep. So in regards to the November ballot and property taxes, our funding is majority federal funds. So we're formula fund driven. What's actually impacting us around the same time is actually federal transportation authorization. So our funding typically comes in a 5-year bill. Right now, that expires at the end of the federal fiscal year, so September 30th. So October 1st, it would be starting of a new transportation spending bill. Congress is currently going through that process right now and working it out. If they don't meet the deadline, they typically do extending resolutions for a year. And so we'd probably see it by, next year. But that typically is what determines the funding that we have available. There are like matching requirements and all that typically is handled at the statewide level for us. So there's no direct property tax sort of implications for us. One caveat to that is we do have local dues, which are, I think, 10 cents per capita for our board members. So board members pay a nominal amount towards that. I don't foresee any issues with that. But for the most part, we're fine related to our property tax issue.
Any other questions? All right, happy to see SR7 still the number one on the priorities. So any updates on that?
I from our discussions with FDOT, it's still moving forward. They've done some design changes along the way, but it's still scheduled for those years. So, and that's coming up in this next tip, right? So we have fiscal year 28 for Oaktree Boulevard to 60th Street, and then 60th Street to North Lake in fiscal year 29. So at this time, it's still on the timeline.
That litigation's all resolved now, right? That's what
Yes.
I heard.
I'm pretty sure it is, but just,
Sometimes there's more litigations that come through, but I think at this time we are
all right, cool.
no additional update.
All right, and then do we have any news on if during the budget, how Tri-Rail was funded? Or was it?
Yes, there was a bit of this discussion in our last governing board meeting that we had a little bit of an update. Let's see if they were funded. It sounds like it was $60 million appropriated to SFRTA for operating and maintenance. I'm not positive of the outcomes about future years and if it's like a continual amount that's going to be dedicated towards that, if it's 60 million every year. But we can look into that more.
All right.
A correct, concrete answer. But they did backfill it in some ways with at least $60 million.
And if I'm correct, the presentation tonight for the countywide transportation master plan is basically preliminary results and ideas and things like that coming out there. So how as that comes to fruition, going to impact our LOP and TIP and all that stuff?
Good question. So Chairs Garvin's referencing the Palm Beach Gardens is having a series, the county with their countywide transportation master plan is having a series of public outreach events. They've been going out a few times, and this is one of the closing ones. It's at the Palm Beach Gardens Library tonight at 6 p.m., I believe.
Mhm.
And they're doing one in South County and Boynton and maybe next week. The CTMP is a large effort with all jurisdiction within the county. And the results of that, we've already gotten a few of the products integrated into our long-range transportation plan. But as the locals in the county set the priorities of the CTMP, the MPO is always here to try to get those ones that really bubble up to pushing our vision, right? So any additional needs and products that come out of that, they may be great products and candidates for federal and state funds. And so we're collaborating closely with the county along with the municipalities who are part of that. But yeah, just like our last meeting here, we had the LRTP amendment and had a lot of mobility plan products go in there. Those same mobility plans were given to the CTMP. So hopefully it's aligning well. The next presentation here is the strategic plan. And with that strategic plan, I'll touch a little bit about that, about what we're trying to coordinate with them.
Is it possible that when it's ready for discussion or presentation, we could get a presentation from the county on the CMTP?
We can request that, sure.
I think it'd be beneficial for all of us to kind of know what the big plan is and how it all works together.
I'll put that request into them.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. I just think that'd be helpful for everybody. All right. Any other comments on this item? Seeing none. Can I have a motion and a second? Motion by Jim. Second by Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes. Thank you, everybody. All right, and okay, so item 2B. Motion to recommend adoption of the 2027 strategic plan with MPO, and I'm gonna let Andrew continue to present.
Just forgive me, I'm going to be doing all the presentations today. Brian was going to be doing this one that you just saw, but he had another meeting to attend to related to the CTMP, actually. So this is our draft fiscal year 27 strategic plan. And so this will be going to the governing board this month as well. And as I mentioned, we're just starting up our fiscal year 27 starting today. So this really sets our strategy over the next year. And really what the strategic plan is, it's not anything that's required of an MPO. So it's nothing in federal or state for requirements of this. It's really like a best practice that we've started doing a few years ago, probably, I mean, it's probably been about 8 years now, 7 years that we've been doing this strategic plan. And it's really trying to push forward best practice with our vision. And so we annually establish some priorities and goals and key initiatives. And it really ties into our Unified Planning Work Program. So our Unified Planning Work Program is our 2-year work program. And this really dovetails into that. And it gets a little bit more specific about how to push certain priorities and initiatives of the MPO. Recap. So Matthew mentioned the annual report. I have a little booklet over my chair. I'm not going to go over there and get it, but we have them out in the hallway. And so it's a neat little booklet of accomplishments over the past year. It does summarize some of those things from the last year's strategic plan. Carly did a great job of designing and publishing this. So grab a copy on your way out. But I'll just give a few things for a recap of 2026. It's separated just like we have our Unified Planning Work Program. And so you'll see different categories of engage public, plan the system, prioritize, implement, collaborate, and administer the agency. And so in each one of these, there's a series of initiatives, about 3 or 4 each. And I'm just going to touch on a few highlights. All of them were met this past year. Some of these are reoccurring annually, trying to continue to have a lot of educational and outreach opportunities for board members, for committee members, if they're able to attend, and other ways to collaborate with our partners. A few key ones I wanted to mention. In the first category for engage the public, we had the 5E safety educational toolkit. So the multimodal team created this 5E toolkit as a printout. We have those available as well on the front desk. Good resources for our locals to sort of have a introductory thing for Vision Zero and then all the different 5Es of safety. Additional highlights that I really enjoyed this past year, our multimodal team for Plan the System also spearheaded a Safe Routes to School action plan. And so this Safe Routes to School action plan dove into specific schools with walk audits and met with parents of school children during the school days. So we had walk audits out in the field at 5 schools, elementary schools, and learn from the principals of the schools, teachers, and then also parents about sort of the needs around safety and walking and biking to school and even the car drop off, right? So trying to create efficiencies within the current pickup and drop off, and then how to create safer walking and biking to school. So that was accomplished. We have some results of that and initiatives from moving forward with those 5 schools, trying to expand that now to other schools within the county. Other initiatives that we've done this past year that I think were interesting. You're going to hear about the congestion management process at today's meeting. That was work spearheaded with Matthew here and the programs team. And so we'll have an update on sort of the congestion management process today. We hosted a variety of workshops and trainings for board members and committee members. I think like workshop was great with some people from the Netherlands who came in and did a workshop with us. And then we always have done these additional support for local studies and plans. So we had 4 local studies and plans with some of our municipalities that are geared towards mobility plans or corridor studies or other needs they may have. So a lot of good things this past year. And then heading into our next draft, we've restructured our Unified Planning Work Program to consolidate some of the categories. So you're going to see consolidated goals. But heading into those, I'm going to go through them high level. The first one is engage and collaborate. So combining those 2 goals in the Unified Planning Work Program. Continue to do outreach events, so 6 events, transportation mobile tours. This has been a big success especially for board members and our other partners. So we've gone to various locations, mobile tours, whether it's the Port of Palm Beach, whether it's going to see tri-rail facilities, et cetera. We've done agency site visits. This past year, we did BEEP in Orlando. So take Broadline to Orlando to see the BEEP headquarters and learn about their autonomous vehicles. And so this year, we're looking to do 2 more site visits to partner agencies within the area or region. Planning system. So this is more on the planning side of things. We have multiple corridor studies. So we've always been pushing our corridor studies. This is really focused on our 561, so major enhanced transit network or other major safety corridors to push forward. We also are going to do a land use and economic development analysis. And so based on our transit corridors, which are these high ridership, high impact locations that we can increase ridership, but also try to increase the development opportunities along the corridor. This is getting more into that side of things. So like if we were to change their land use around, improve ridership, what kind of other impacts could we see when it comes to economic development? Going to pursue more of those safe routes to school walking audits that I mentioned out of the Safe Routes to School Action Plan, and continue to assist locals with some planning assistance. Long term, this is more on the programming side with our side of the office. We're going to have an update to our freight and resiliency plan and our long range transportation plan. That's item D on the screen. So we had a little bit of effort in our last LRTP on freight and the needs there with truck parking, with freight safety, and a few other initiatives with collaboration with with FDOT. So sort of trying to loop those in more into our LRTP, and also a focus more on resiliency, whether that's resiliency with hot weather events, with climate adaptation, with sea level rise and flooding, inland flooding as well. So that's really what that's focused on. And then another great one, I think, is the top one, and our chair mentioned, how are we integrated into the countywide transportation master plan? And we have so many projects that came in from various stakeholders through our process and then also through the countywide transportation master plan. So taking all that information, and we'll be updating our product lists and our maps and going and meeting with our largest municipalities to ensure that everything is aligned, and then we can start driving those main initiatives forward to the bigger products that came out of all those efforts, and being aligned to really go after federal and state investments. One other one I wanted to mention on this list is called Digital Twin Pilot. So there's been a big push with AI, and what you always hear is like digital twin. To us, really what this is going to be is faster scenario planning, and having a series of ways to tweak scenarios on the fly and run different iterations really quickly. So historically, we have a travel demand model that takes a while to run. It's a very complex model. This sort of takes that model, simplifies it a little bit, and integrates other types of needs in there and scenarios, and you can kind of get information on the fly. So if you increase population or housing in an area, if you add a new roadway link, increase pedestrian bicycle facilities quickly, what does it do to the demand of the network? So that's really where that's headed. our first test case is going to be in Boca Raton. Next is administrative agency, so goal 4. Many of these are ones that we've continuously had on here. So obviously the annual report, and trainings for board and staff members. So always have those on there. 2 new ones is digital accessibility. So there's been federal requirements related to ADA compliance when it comes to accessibility. So this is nationwide. We're really pushing hard here to ensure that our documents are accessible on our website, more so than they already are, making sure all of our applications online and our interactive maps and other tools are all accessible as well. And so that's going to be a big push for next year. And then also some file management standards when it comes to our storage optimization internally. Okay. So that's a summary of the upcoming state plan for fiscal 27. I can take any questions or comments.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Ruth, are there any public comments on this?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Are there any committee members with comments? Dana?
Andrew, question about the Safe Routes to Schools initiative. I know that you already worked with, I can't remember if you said 4 or 5 different schools, but I'm curious if you are taking recommendations for the next set of schools. The Parker Avenue corridor in West Palm has Coniston, Belvedere, Palmetto, Forest Hill, all right there within a 1 mile stretch of Parker. And traffic is a huge problem. Safety is a huge problem. There are so many different ways that could be, well, strike that. Does the MPO work with the school district on these issues, or is it with the individual municipalities?
It's very.
It is the school. Well, my suggestion would be if you can work with the school district, across from Forest Hill High School, there's a vacant lot that is owned by the school district. The problem with them using that, they're not permitted to do so because in order to use that lot, Parker Avenue south of Forest Hill would have to be closed off. I don't know that the city has any problem closing it off because it's really only used by Forest Hill. But if that's something that the MPO can work with the school district on, perhaps getting it closed south of Forest Hill Boulevard, there's just that one little traffic circle. It used to go right into the golf course, which that's not the entrance to the golf course anymore. That's actually a parking lot that's used by Forest Hill High School. That could alleviate a lot of the congestion, traffic problems, safety issues. Kids are literally being dropped off by their parents on Forest Hill Boulevard in the morning to cross Forest Hill, not at a crosswalk. And Parker Avenue is definitely an issue. So I'd love to talk further about that, but just wanted to kind of plant the seed. That would be a great area to look at for this initiative.
Thank you for that. Yes, and just high level, and this is mostly on the multimodal side of the office, but who leads these initiatives. We do have like an overall prioritization of schools by need, but that's not really where it ends, right? So it starts with that list, and then we whittle it down, and obviously it's really based on not only that list, but also the schools themselves, school district, other needs that arise and who really want to push these things. And so always taking recommendations to do those walk audits and focus on those schools. So we'll get with the multimodal team to tell them about that. And I wrote down your issue there too. So we'll try to follow up maybe short term too about that specific need.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what we're seeing in a lot of schools too, it really depends on the school. All schools are different, but we had some good examples in these last walking audits about school drop-offs and the amount of informal drop-offs that occur, right? So occurring in a shopping plaza or down the street, and then they're, crossing the road at undesignated locations. Some of them make it work, but some are safety concerns. That sounds like that's maybe an issue with that one too. So
yeah, and just a quick follow-up to what I was saying, the Parker Avenue CIP is well underway with the city of West Palm Beach, and maybe this would be a really great opportunity for the MPO and the city of West Palm Beach to sort of collaborate on some of these issues as they're planning the, all the changes that are going to be taking place on Parker Avenue.
Thank you.
Any other committee comments? To expand on what Dana was saying, I've even noticed up in Palm Beach Gardens area, the drop off at school, but not actually in the car line, the down the street and the parking lot next door. I can expect that it's not isolated to those two pockets. It's probably a much bigger issue across the county. And so to expand the look of those audits or those discussions and so forth about that might be beneficial to painting a more accurate picture of exactly how people are entering and leaving school property and stuff with pedestrian access and things like that. Because I suspect it's a much broader issue. Do I?
Yes.
So yeah, just on the radar for that. But otherwise, any other comments from the committee? All right, seeing none. Can I get a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Motion by Dana. Second by Greg. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Passes. All right, so next is item 3, which is an informational item, which is the congestion management process update. And once again, Andrew has another presentation.
Okay. So this last one for informational purposes is the congestion management process, also called the CMP. And with this one specifically, we are required as a metropolitan planning organization to have one of these in place. It's for larger MPOs, so anyone over 200,000 people or more. That's definitely us. So we've always had this sort of integrated into our work. This is more of a refresh of it. And really what it's looking at is the routine monitoring of travel and activity on the transportation network. So with that, you then try to identify and advance effective solutions for mitigating congestion impacts. And although historically it was driven towards single occupancy vehicles and other driving alone or other types of drivers in freight, it has expanded to more multimodal. So we're considering congestion measures that are also towards transit reliability and then also walkability and bikeability. The first thing that you really do in this is establish a network. And so this is the network for the congestion management plan. We do have an overarching emphasis on the national highway system because we're required to by federal requirements to track this and prioritize and ensure the travel time reliability of that network. But it is expanded more towards all those ones in the federal aid over the network, and then also transit, freight, and some other multimodal considerations. And so just some quick facts here, and it's important to reference here, especially for the Citizens Advisory Committee. You know, sometimes we get buried in, and you guys are probably more so technically savvy versus maybe other citizens at large when it comes to some of our transportation data and all the lingo we use here at the agency. But always trying to shift this into a way of like make it understandable for the public and elected officials and others. And so that's what we're trying to get at with this overview document that was provided in your backup. Just some stats, lost hour. This is from the INRIC scorecard, so company who provides analytics. But 49 hours of the average driver lost 49 hours in congestion in 2025, which equated to around $900 last year. And then kind of showing something similar there about the delay areas per mile within our county on the corridors. This kind of data that we have for this congestion management plan. The process is a really an 8-step process, and it's really an iterative process. So identifying your goals, defining a network, measuring that and understanding what the issues are, coming up with strategies and solutions to push forward, and then evaluating those and then cycling it back over again. So that's the entire intent of the CMP. And our measures and indicators when it comes to how we manage, or sorry, how we measure congestion, our first ones are ones that are driven by our federal requirements. And so those are the ones that are called PM, so performance measures. And that does with safety, which is fatalities and serious injuries, our infrastructure condition, which is like pavement, and bridge condition. System performance is that national highway system, and that is the travel time reliability on that network. And then asset management is the transit asset. So that's related to congestion. For example, the South Florida Rail Corridor, so what Tri-Rail operates on, they have an asset management measure that they're required to track, which is rail line that has speed performance restrictions, right? So if we have speed performance restrictions on the rail line, they can't operate at full speed, leads to delays. So that's sort of where that one lies. And then on top of that, we have other indicators to round it out for CMP, which are mobility, freight, additional multimodal, and more safety measures. The backup material, the way this really works is you have your measures, you're going to identify sort of the corridors and the needs there for congestion for the different modes. And then you come up with a series of strategies based on those modes. And so the toolbox is really a simplified version of what you should kind of first look at for congestion alleviation. And so they're based on different categories and they have different network applications. And the reason why we wanted to go with a network application approach, which means whether it's heavy truck, multimodal, or commuter, is that sometimes you do have trade-offs between users. And so an example is if you have for example, a heavy rate of freight corridor, or even a high turning movement volume on a intersection, there's a trade-off there if you're trying to improve mobility of freight or right turning, free flow movements of a car versus a pedestrian who's trying to cross the street there, right? So when you don't allow enough safe a safe time for crossing for pedestrians or bicyclists, and you have free flow green times for cars, obviously you're improving the mobility of those vehicles, but maybe at the expense of the pedestrian. And so in an instance like that, ensuring that when you're looking at the toolbox, you're looking at those trade-offs or ways to alleviate some of those conflicts. That's just one example. There's plenty of other examples, but that's what we're trying to get at with this toolbox. This doesn't have an overarching every single tool in the toolbox, but it is some of the larger ones. And we also have in the backup material, not for you today, but we're working towards is which ones of these are being implemented within Palm Beach County. So an example of the data that we have, and we'll be working towards this for the next year of visualizing this more and making it palatable for everyone to use. But an example is the level of travel time reliability. So this is that federal performance measure that we're required to track. We have it for different time periods. So how reliable is that morning commute during the AM peak? How reliable is it during the PM peak? And typically, if it's like getting closer to 1.5, meaning it's 50% longer time for you to travel on that roadway versus like your normal commute during that time, it's considered unreliable. And so that's basically anything over 1.6. So that's kind of how this works. And then you use that toolbox on top of this to figure out solutions. It's also important to mention that the solutions and why congestion management came around overall is that you're looking at ways to improve our transportation system and come up with solutions that maybe aren't always capacity, right? So looking at other non-capacity solutions first before you widen the roadway or increase capacity in other ways. Another one I'm kind of excited about is PalmTran data on-time performance. So PalmTran has a way to, through their feeds, they have, probes on their buses that can equate, delays. So here is the on-time performance from 2020 to 2026 for the system as a whole on their fixed route system. And so we'll be getting this data monthly, and we also have it at the corridor level, so per route. And so what we're looking at this for is figuring out solutions for any place that's really experiencing on-time performance delays, so transit travel time reliability issues, just like we do for vehicles. And so some of those ones in the toolbox that we're considering or may already be implemented is transit signal priority. So we've discussed at this committee before a bit about transit signal priority. So giving extended green times for buses to get them back on their schedule. And so that's really what that's going towards. It's already going under implementation now on US 1. It's going to be on Okeechobee Boulevard and Lake Worth Road. And so seeing how that can really improve on-time performance. There's a series of other ways in the toolbox to do this. Level boarding, bus stop consolidation, so it's not stopping as many stops, off-board fare payments, so you're not taking all that time to do that. Many of these things have already been implemented by Palmtran, but it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. There's plenty of other additional resources out there. We're still building this out. The draft and the backup is that first draft. We're going to be releasing the final version within the next month here. But this is sort of the process, and we wanted to sort of give this to you all to see how you feel about it, how you sort of interpret it, if it makes sense, and have a bunch of other resources on the screen here that we'll be utilizing as well as we fill out this CMP. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do we have any committee member comments? Jim?
Is 80% a good number for I don't know, for Palmtran? I don't really know. I was thinking, didn't have any way to judge that or whatever else, so forth.
I believe from their own metrics I'd have to look at the report. This came from their Palmtran performance report. So if you Google that, it'll show up for March of 2026, the most recent. I believe it must be under 77 or 76. That's why 2022 is a different color there. I think standards I've seen in other places are closer to probably wanting like 80% on-time performance.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's a specific number. I don't know off the top of my head.
James?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you can help me understand a little bit about how the signals, the traffic signals, how do they operate? I mean, I see a lot of times where you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and there's no one coming in either direction. And the light is red, and you're sitting there for 5 minutes wondering when this light's going to change. And I had a lot of people ask me the same question. Is there any type of mechanism in place where this is computerized, where you have traffic cameras at every traffic signal? How does this work? Maybe you can help me understand it.
Sure, I could do it high level. That's good. And that's a great point. There's not a lot of great material out there, I'd say, that does a good job of explaining how a traffic signal works and the type of technology that we have installed within the county. And so I think that's a great point. And I think we could probably work towards that as an agency with Palm Beach County traffic engineering to provide that. A few points for it. So our standard within the county is it's kind of like an 180-second system, right? So you have 180 seconds total for the intersection to go through all its different cycles, right? So everyone should have ability towards that. If that was a standard signal. And those are set by your signal timing plans, okay? Then on top of your signal timing plan, you can start integrating other technologies, right? So giving priorities for certain things. And so if you ever look at the pavement and you see like markings in the pavement, those are inductive loops. So those know when people are the cars are on top of it. And so it knows that there's queuing occurring there. They typically don't do those anymore. Now they have cameras. So if you see a camera up on top of the signal, it may very well likely just be one it's not like recording like licenses or anything. It just knows that there's a vehicle there. And so once there's a large enough queue, it like gives more priority for that. So if a side roadway does not have any of those technologies out there, it's just going to be operating on its normal signal timing, which are adjusted at certain times, and it goes towards off-peak or on-peak hours. But basically, if you're thinking about it, it's really about 180-second total of trying to fit things in, and there's different movements happening at the same time to try to get everybody through the intersection. Some of those things may reset. So an example is down here off Okeechobee, I believe by Parker, is if the train tracks come down, they're really going to prioritize those bigger movements, especially during peak time. So train track comes down, train track comes back up. Okeechobee is going to get the priority. It's always going to default back to Okeechobee because they're trying to move more traffic that way. So it typically goes on the highest traffic corridors. And then if they do have that technology that are reading, if there's a vehicle queue on some of those smaller streets, then you would hopefully get that green time.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I just wasn't sure how that.
I know that all,
worked.
yeah. And there's also, we've done some traffic management center tours in the past. We did one two last year. Maybe they'll come back around in a year or two. But the county has a system, a traffic control center that they're monitoring all this as well. So if some are
Monitored
actively
by-
managed,
By manpower or is that?
yeah, both. Some are managed, like they're looking at the corridors with actual cameras then, and they're ensuring that they're getting, any backups, they're flushing traffic on it.
Dana?
Yeah, quick follow-up to that is what you're referring to, Andrew, the use of AI, because from my understanding is there are communities that are actually using AI for their traffic control devices. Is that something that Palm Beach County has looked at, or is it actually being tested somewhere?
I would say yes. There's a few new systems, adaptive control systems that are being piloted within the county. I think some are on Okeechobee and some areas in West Palm Beach. The county's working through that now. We haven't had any update yet about where that's at, but that is being considered. Some of these things, especially, should be noted, is that during like heavy peak hours, for example, something like Okeechobee or other larger roadways that are already fully congested on their major movements, you can only give so much green time, right? So as I mentioned, 180 seconds, you got to get all the movements in. If you're already given so much priority to a major roadway and it's still, at peak capacity, it's tough to get a lot of efficiency improvements during peak time for that kind of technology for any corridor. But for off peak, for sure, it could definitely help a lot. But it could also help in some of those instances. But yes, we are exploring that. I say we, meaning the county, has some pilots out there.
Lily?
I know it's kind of early in the implementation of them, but have you guys seen any congestion reduction from the yellow left turns yet?
Good question. I'm going to have to ask the county on that if they have any. Again, that's going to be one of those ones where when you say congestion reduction, that's definitely going to help with off peak, right? So if for those unfamiliar, the flashing yellow arrows, these are mostly on the left turning movements. When you have a dedicated one, which means you have the green arrow, you're going, right? So you have a dedicated green arrow. That's going to happen during like peak congestion. They're going to give you that one because there's such a backup. On off peak, you're waiting there. And if you didn't have the green arrow and it's a red arrow, you're just waiting there the entire time. This allows the flashing yellow. So allows you to yield, but you can take that permissible left turn. So it helps with off peak a bit. I'm not sure. I'd have to see if they have any stats on it. I'd follow up with them though.
That would be awesome. Yeah, the one, I think it's on Fulbright and Old Boynton seems to be
Right.
working really well.
Okay. Boynton said Woolbright and Boynton.
I think so. Fulbright and Old Boynton.
Oh, Boynton. Okay.
I've come across a couple myself and they seem to work pretty efficiently. So any other committee comments? Andrew, just real quick question. You showed the AM PM congestion map.
Yes.
How accurate is that? How
So-
recent is it, should I say?
This is 2024. Sorry, I didn't have this on here. And this is one of a few ways of measuring it, measuring congestion. So we do have just total trips, so AADT, annual average daily traffic. We also have vehicle hours of delay. And then this is another way of measuring it, which is travel time reliability. So different measures, a little bit different results, but this is the kind of data we'll have available soon.
Just
Visually.
explains the turnpike widening, but okay.
Oh,
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate it. No other comments? All right. Okay, so items 4A through 4E are administrative informational only. There will be no staff presentation. Somebody requests it. Is there a request? Nope. All right. Are there any public comments on that item?
No, Mr. Chair.
That is a shocker. All right. That being said, our next CAC meeting is scheduled for September 2nd, 2026. Enjoy your August.